Welcome back to this special edition of Bet Racing Nation. I'm still here with Julie. Julie, just want to bring things to the present day a little bit. If we talk about a typical day for you, obviously you still work the shops and you also work on course. Now, I remember having a conversation with you last weekend and you said you were getting up at 3 a.m. to drive to Newbury to be on course. Can you tell us like a little bit about what a typical day would consist of on course and at the shop?
Yeah, sure. Let's take a Saturday and let's put them both into one.
Okay.
So a Saturday morning, I'll get up, I'll go through the card, I'll do my form assessment. My husband will equally be doing the same thing at the same time. We also have a little rivalry with our shop customers on a Saturday. So we pull what we call a snip double together, which is basically two very short horses where we think at least one of them can get beat.
Okay.
And we put a crazy price next to it. Now, don't anyone out there be getting any ideas. All of our customers are known. The staff would know you coming over the hill if you come in with a bag of money. But we do it for our locals. Yeah. And so it's almost a testing of what's, it's not going to cost me my house. Yeah. But it certainly adds a bit of interest every Saturday morning because it becomes a bit about pride at that point. And then I look at junior football again. Junior football is really big in my shops, and it's not kids out playing football. It's people just below senior level. Right. And they go out and it's taken exceptionally seriously. But what I'm very aware as the bookmaker is that all of my customers will know more about those teams than I could ever possibly know, right down to whether the star striker was celebrating the night before a party, got hammered down the pub and is going to be useless on the pitch tomorrow. So I do a bit of finalisation around, you know, the junior prices, just make sure I'm fairly comfortable with them. And then if we're going on track, that'll be us, we'll be getting our stuff together, make sure we've got plenty of warm clothes, off into the car, and my husband and I will spend the journey talking about, you know, what his card's saying, what my card's saying, beginning to try and pull that together a little bit. We also work with some other boys as well, and they'll forward their cards to us and we'll forward ours to theirs, so that you've got another opinion over and above your own. And by the time I reach the track, I'm hoping that card is more or less formed in terms of what I think I'm going to lay that day. Get to the track, try and spend half an hour on the car just reviewing things, head in, and it's just full on bang, bang, bang for the next 3 hours. You don't know what's going to come at you. You've no idea who's coming to the track. The one thing you are aware of is as you're driving to that track in order to work, there are other people coming who want to take your money. Yeah. So it builds up that sense of things, and then you work race by race, obviously. What you don't want is to lose in the first race, because every time you don't want to lose anyway, obviously, Cathryn, but each time you lose, you have a queue to pay out, which means you can't work the next race as quickly. So because you're only limited to your half hour, so you've got to get everything done as quickly as possible. And you get through the 3 hours. They normally go by in a blur, especially Saturdays, and before you know it, you're on your way home. You're making phone calls to the shop, you're checking out with them, you know, how the day's been if you've not heard from them in between times, which very often you do actually. You're checking the football results, you're catching up on all the other sport. And pretty much by the time you get home, you're fairly exhausted, you're mentally gone.
That leads us on to quite a nice question actually about how we'll cover the advent of Wi-Fi, 3G and 4G. And we've actually got a tweet for you. Somebody's tweeted in a question, so we'll cover that in that section. The ring is a totally different place to as it was when you first started out in it. And when we were talking off camera, we said that even looking back at the documentary in 2006, the way it's kind of gone down since then. So how is it now out there, and And how do you see the future of it? Because I, for one, would hate to see a racecourse without a betting ring. That's what I grew up in.
Yeah,
and
adds to the spectacle.
Absolutely.
You know, to my mind, you know, going to a racetrack without the spectacle of a betting ring and prices on display and the buzz of all that, you know, there would just be something for me a little bit lacking.
Completely,
I think.
Yeah.
But yes, it's changed. I mean, technology just moves us forward all the time. I mean, when I was a little kid, there was this big book, and the clerk stood behind my dad, and his dad shouted out the ticket number and the amount. It had all to be written up in the book. And, you know, I remember at big race meets, maybe the Grand National or, you know, the Gold Cup in Scotland, and it could take my dad a week to find out whether he had won or lost, because there was so many transactions that had to be worked through in order to get to that final figure. We've obviously now got computers, and you know, I just like put my head round the corner and I immediately know whether you know, a horse is a winner or a loser for me. So we're constantly evolving, we're constantly moving forward. I just really hope that, you know, whatever way technology moves us forward, I hope that somehow it takes us with you know, the traditional, you know, on-course bookmakers who are standing, you know, and putting up the prices and putting their wares on display, so to speak, you know, are part of it.
And you don't get the competitiveness in the ring that you used to. Obviously, that's from the advent of the exchanges.
Yeah,
you know, I remember even probably about the same time that documentary was made.
Yeah.
I remember being able to walk around the ring at Cheltenham, horse you fancy, I'll take 16.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, goes to 12s. If someone's still going 14s, I might have a little bit on. You don't get that anymore, do you?
There's no doubt that, you know, bookmakers on track are influenced by the betting exchanges, and I don't think that that's any kind of secret.
Yeah.
And in some ways, you know, that what it does mean is that in terms of percentage value overall, bookmakers might now be working to between 100 and 610%, which in theory means that, you know, the punters are better off.
Yes.
However, what you don't get is that opinionated stuff, which is what makes the vibe, what makes it exciting, and what makes it likely we're going to make mistakes. I still try to work to opinion.
Yes.
Obviously, you know, you are influenced by what's around you. You couldn't not be.
Yeah.
But there are still going to be horses that I go and I want to take on. And to do that, very often I have to go above even the exchange price to achieve that. I don't always get it right. And you have to get it right at least 60% of the time, you know, to begin to earn some wages. But, you know, I just enjoy that side of the challenge. And it's not just about earning the bucks for me. There is the side of it for me that's about testing my wits. That's what gambling's about.
That's what your Twitter bio says, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, gambling's about taking, you know, looking at the chances and saying, okay, you know, I think I know better than what these are saying here, and I think this is value, and I think that I'm getting that value.
It's a buzz we all love, isn't it?
It's a great buzz.
Talking about the betting ring, and I know what it's like being a woman in this game and how hard it is. How hard is it still? You know, like when I come over and see you at Cheltenham and stuff, you are the only woman in the ring.
Well, yeah.
Like, how hard is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's more women springing up around rings now, and there's probably more women in the ring now than when I probably first started going along with my dad. Let's be honest, you know, the ring does not operate in isolation from society. And sexism still exists in society. Oh my goodness, I'm that big bad feminist now. But so of course, you know, there's going to be advantages and disadvantages. But one of the things, I was talking to my husband about this, and I was saying, you know, one of the things that never ceases to amaze me is the fact that because I'm female, people expect me to smile. And, you know, and so you're standing, it's freezing cold, it's miserable, there's no one there, it's an off Wednesday afternoon somewhere, you know, it's raining, and you're losing, and someone comes over and goes, oh, where should we smile in? And you're like,
you wouldn't say that to a guy.
Yeah, go and ask the guy next door, please. But, you know, so of course, it's different for women. And I think when when Dad passed away and I first went back on, I was much more assertive than I'd say I need to be now. And that was really just to try and make sure lines were cleared, you know.
Yeah.
I went from being the girl who worked next to Dad, who took jelly babies along and shared them out and chatted to everyone, to suddenly realising I'm the new...
At the helm.
Well, I'm the prey. Yeah. You know, effectively I'm there to be torn apart, and that's quite possibly by the other bookmakers first before we even get to the punters. So I had to kind of stand my ground a little bit, and fortunately now, you know, people know how I operate. Yeah. And, you know, and also the very large customers of my dad, they were very kind, very sweet and very respectful of the fact that clearly I am not going to go in at the deep end that my dad was working in. As my dad once said, I think it was to the Times, he said, my biggest fear is that Julie follows me into being a bookmaker, because you can lose your money so quickly and so easily, and I'd hate that for her. So here we are, but I'm sure he'd see that I'm doing it so much more cautiously. And I recognise he did not leave me a recipe book. There is no such thing. It's not like, you know, making the best jar of tomato sauce where you can just follow it step by step. And I think for me, what I've realised is just go cautiously, get the experience. There's plenty of time to step back in if ever you choose to.
Play the long game.
Play the longer game, yeah.
Absolutely. Julie, after the break, we'll wrap up with a few fun questions, plus we have some readers' questions for you, some tweeters have actually tweeted in with some questions for you. So we'll be back after the break.